Bring the Town of Vinalhaven Board of Selectmen meeting for December 14th, 2021 to order. Roll call. Jake Thompson, Leslie Dyer, Eric Gasparini, myself, Pam Alley, Andy Dorr, Town Manager, Elizabeth Bunker, Deputy Town Clerk. The minutes. Approve the minutes from the November 30th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Number 3, approve and sign treasurer's warrant number 24.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Number 4, we have one addition, correct? 9F, Vinalhaven Et3 Withdrawal. I move we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? 5, communications.
Was that swap shop thing a communication technically? It's not on the agenda, right? Is that anything that we need to discuss or?
Yeah, Pat's here to just give an update if you'd like to hear how things are going with that.
Yeah.
This is the next one. Click on it.
Okay. All right, no. Speakers from the floor.
So I meant to, I mean, you should have had this here, I know it's supposed to be in your packet, but it's been so good that we wanted to come and tell you how good it's been. So I think we opened the weekend of Halloween. It's been bustling ever since. You'll see in here some statistics. We weigh everything that comes in. There have been 3 tons of stuff. We see it's like a revolving door. People, the people with children whose clothes they grow out of, bring in the clothes they grow out of and pick up the next size and take it back out the door. There's that kind of repeat story under here. Can only say that it wouldn't have happened without Amy Weir's work. She's been phenomenal. Has recruited, I think Heather's part of the recruiting team of getting volunteers so that it's not falling on the shoulders of one person to be there from 9 to 1 on Saturday, but it takes more than one person to be there on Saturday because it's so crowded. Got some good organizational plans in there to know what it is that should be taken to Goodwill. And that is color coding the clothing hangers so that when some colors turn comes up and we don't have room anymore, we'll take the clothes off of those hangers and that's what will go to the mainland. I mean, you have all the information in here, but the part that is going to in the long run that we still don't have all the answers for. Amy made the first run of what we would call trash to the mainland. That would probably pretty definitely have been stuff going in the trash. It was the most worn shoes, the clothes that were stained or ripped or whatever. She went over it carefully with the receiving agent because we heard that Goodwill is being inundated with garbage and everything was accepted readily. What we haven't yet tested are things like toaster ovens and Keurig coffee makers, which we seem to have an overabundance of. We'll see what happens on that next round. But there's more than one place to take stuff. So it's we have good options. So we don't have a lot of expense associated with this. And the only thing I can say is that we got 70 pounds that didn't go in the trash. So we can't really prove the value, but I think the human value to the people that are using the swap shop is tremendous. I haven't heard anything other than, oh my God, this is so fantastic. That is the way it is. We have regulars, like Wes comes in every Saturday looking for some good antiques in there. Sometimes he reads something, sometimes he doesn't. And Amy's back there. I should let Amy do the talking here. Yeah, so anyway, I think it's a resounding success, and the fact that it's in that building, which is so huge, is the reason it's so good. And we had originally, we were going to work in the little trailer to the end, but we couldn't get the water out of it. I mean, it wouldn't be anything like it is if we were in there. It's only marginally bigger. I don't know if you have anything that you want to add, but Heather, I should also, besides Amy, Heather has been a really hard worker, throwing pop-ups hearing people that need to get there and can't get there Saturdays, just opens it up and gets people in. It's I think the most satisfying thing that I've taken part of in this town in a long time, because I don't think I was such a believer. I wanted to keep stuff out of the trash and give it another hope. But I've seen things that come in like, who would want that? And then it's gone before you know it. And there's just this whole big learning curve. I have this lovely scarf that goes with my coat.
That's where it might.
Yeah. It's a really fine service, and you're letting us use the building and whatever expenses it's gonna go with it. It's been great. And you can add.
I don't know if you went over your future plans.
I did not talk about it.
Considering the accepting of donations, because we had lots of people ask, and we still have people ask, oh, can I give you money for this? So something possibly in the future to be similar to like the flea market, to accept donations. And I don't know how it would work, but it would be great if we had like a lock box that we didn't even have to open, and we could just drop off here at the town office. Or the money could go to pay for the expenses that are incurred, electricity or fuel or whatever is going on. And we also are trying to establish a tool library and a dish library for like events. So if somebody needs to, that would also be in a donation type thing too. We could get permission to do that at some point.
I think that's a great idea.
And we were also, there's a lot of it, since we are starting the color coding of things, if things are there after like 4 or 5 weeks, we kind of figure that they're not going to be picked up now. But they're still great items, but nobody here on the island wants them. So I was thinking, considering if an organization or somebody wanted to do some online sales with those useful things, and again, go back to like nonprofits in the town. And this, so it wouldn't go into the trash, but it would generate some money for the nonprofits, and it would be sent off island.
How much time is everyone volunteering right now? Do you?
I've been thinking that would be something we should be reporting.
Yeah.
What the things are. I can't guess what Amy's done. She's there hours and hours when there's no one there. I mean, I leave on a Saturday and it's total chaos because it was crazy. Come back the next Saturday and oh, it's gonna be awful. And it's like perfectly clean, organized. Everything is reshuffled. The t-shirts are folded. I don't know, you don't fold the t-shirts, but the linens are all organized by size. I mean, I don't know if you could even begin to guess. We're gonna leave though. So in January, we have to work without her. Right, for a couple of months, yeah. So, and Heather is also a very hard worker on this whole process. So I think we're not gonna fall apart. We're being trained by Amy to do it right. So
It would be, I think, good to
Useful
track the
idea,
hours just so we have an
Yeah.
idea, because if this is all volunteer, so
Yeah.
if obviously if all of you decide to do something else, we're gonna be,
you wanna know what you've got.
we'd be in a bind.
Yeah.
And if there are any personal expenses, please make sure you submit for reimbursement. I don't think the town would have a problem reimbursing volunteers for anything that they're doing with the swap shop, because it sounds like it's a service everyone wants, so.
I think one of the things we have to figure out how to do is when we do a run to the mainland, we thought it could be any one of our volunteers or any person going over there with a truck that was willing to spend the time at Goodwill or wherever to take it. So we could pay for their truck ticket, even if they were going for another purpose in the first place. That makes much more sense. I mean, I had once thought that Public Works could take an empty truck when they're done salt, but they're not the right folks to do this. It's the people involved in it. I think. So figuring out how to get that kind of reimbursement.
Is there a way to set up a donation thing like she asked for, Andy? How would that work?
Yeah, similar to another library or the ambulance or the fire, doesn't matter.
So we just set up a separate swap shop reserve account or a swap shop,
It either goes
not
against,
reserve, but like.
either goes against the operating expense account, you know, for the electricity or the water bill, the sewer bill. You could just run it against the operating expenses, or you could set it up as a reserve account.
I just
Probably-
wasn't sure how we would set up, but I mean, I would think that would be a big issue to figure out what it,
You know, we should be able to track that fairly easily, I would think.
if they had a box, like she said, and they just. And you guys have the key up here, like, isn't that what one of you guys kind of said? I would think that would be fine with me, or I don't know about the rest of you guys. but
Yeah,
I
isn't
mean,
there,
even,
isn't there some odd bureaucratic thing though? You have to have article on a town meeting warrant to set up a reserve account.
For the reserve account, you would, if it's just gonna be donations coming in
and nothing that we're gonna put into.
Right.
and go against the operating expenses. I think we can do that. I can double check. But how we've done it for library, for example,
Okay.
fire and EMS stuff. That
Well, as I
usually
said,
comes in and goes to the reserve. but,
Donations for fire, EMS, and so.
You usually see them anyway, those
I mean,
appropriate donations.
If you
and-
find out it's hundreds or thousands of dollars, then it's one thing. But if it's a couple bucks here and there, I think
Yeah.
you'd be okay right now to put it against the operating expenses.
Do we need to make a motion on that, or is it just something that we can just say? I mean, that seems like we're all in agreement, that's fine. so.
Yeah.
So that means a lockbox that comes to the town. That's great.
I mean, is that what you guys want to do? I mean, I heard that from you, that's the only reason I said it. So,
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
don't want to deal with the money part of it, but we want to be able to go to where.
So if you just put it down there and then once a week or something, just empty it out and bring it up here.
I would always bring it.
Oh, you want the box up here?
They're gonna bring the box up here.
Something, I don't know if there's something, there's a slot.
There's a
Right.
Dropbox on our door
Yeah,
here.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just need the
That's what I
marker.
mean. I didn't know if you were gonna use this one here or gonna,
well, I think they
Yeah,
want to have
it is,
something
but-
down at the swap shop, right, physically.
Right, and if they could just. put
Yeah.
the money in, we don't see what they donate.
Right.
We don't touch the money.
yeah, if I want to drop a check off, I just put it in, yeah. But that would be the best place to have it, is down there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then, and I think the logistics can probably get figured out, can't they? Yeah.
Hope so.
Yeah, it doesn't. I'm assuming it can be figured out between Debbie and Andy, and, I mean, Darlene, that's pretty much the crew up here right now, so
Right.
we can figure out the best way.
Well, thank you for
Yes.
the report and thank you for
Yes.
the work. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
We'll start keeping out.
All right.
Please feel free to stop in.
Any other speakers from the floor? Jeff?
Are we on the agenda? I see the ordinance. I just, when the time comes, like to speak to the new ordinances and the process. if that's okay.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right, move on. 7, committee and department reports appointment. 7A, planning commission.
Jeff and I are here both from. We've been working on the commercial aspect, which we were asked to do, and we're getting close with the. So. One, both Jeff and I came to the hearing last week with the aviation ordinance. And I had no idea what to expect. That ordinance went through our committee a couple of years ago as a helicopter ordinance. And it really turned into something that looked nothing like what we had sent to you. We were in hopes that it could get sent back to us so we could look at it. Our job is to review and propose ordinances. We're going to get blamed for it regardless.
We'll share that blame with you.
I mean, I'm getting people calling me, what the hell is it doing? You know? I don't know how it went from what we sent up here a couple of years ago to what was brought to the committee, to the public hearing the other night, but it was extremely different.
I'd only been on the agenda for 2 years,
Been on there for a
on
while,
and
yeah.
off.
Yep.
So
Three public hearings, I
then
believe.
we've talked about it and talked about it. So if you weren't aware, I guess it's because you wasn't here.
I don't
I'm
know
new
how
to
it
the committee,
changed.
so I didn't have I mean, I was unaware of the scope of it. I think that, I think we'd like to really look at the process that is implicit but not explicit within an ordinance like that. And we'd really like to take a look at what other communities have or have not done with this. Because I think there are some boundaries unintentionally being crossed in the language that was proposed. If we had actually voted on those, I think we would have run into some troublesome language. So we'd like to help out is what it is.
Yeah.
We were already,
Sorry.
we were already as a town basically threatened with lawsuits if we passed it. So we realized it was put together a little more hastily than we thought, or without legal counsel that we probably should have had. A lot of it sounds, from what I've read in the packet that Andy sent over, the federal aviation has a lot of control over that stuff, so we don't really have the authority to ban helicopters outright or any other aircraft vehicle, from my understanding. But that doesn't mean that a private citizen can land anything on their property. They have to have a federal aviation approved landing site, which I don't know that there are any other than the landing strip we have up at.
Right, so we'd like to incorporate some of that kind of language
Yeah.
for a procedure, just like we do if you want to put a dock in.
Right,
There's DEP has a role to play in some cases,
Right.
the Army Corps of Engineers. The ordinance helped me when I was on the planning board because it had specific things that had to be done at either concurrent or prior to us taking a vote.
Yep.
So those are the kinds of things that we felt were kind of absent. If you give us some time to push away on that, we certainly seemed comfortable as a committee taking it on at our
Yep.
last meeting. So can we do that?
yeah, that's fine. We're not reviewing that ordinance tonight, are we? In specific,
It was just on the agenda.
is it on the agenda?
Yeah.
They
I'm
were
sorry, it is.
supposed to
Okay.
be there, so.
There's, but my understanding is we're not planning on rewriting it tonight, correct?
I hope not.
Yeah, okay, good.
So wait.
So yes, there's more time to work on that one. We have to take more time on it, unfortunately, because I do think from what we did hear from people showed up and commented on it, I think as a community, we are pretty much in agreement. We would not like private aircraft landing on Vinalhaven whenever and wherever they feel like. So, and it was never our intention to write an ordinance that wouldn't allow us to have our actual airport in use and have the regular flight outs that we
And as
have.
one who has created a list, thank you for leaving flying Santa.
Yes. Yes.
I need a long conversation with Santa if I'm gonna get it.
That was explicit. in
Yes, it
somebody's
was,
request.
yes.
Yeah.
Anything else from the planning commission?
No, you answered my question as a member of the commission was the EMA one, but I understood that to be from the explanation given. at the meeting.
Okay. All right, we'll go to 7B, road commissioner. Anything?
Nothing. I don't have a report as we had before. I just didn't print one out. Trying to get the walls built for the Galamander. We're trying to build walls so we can just take them, put them up and take them down each year instead of trying to wrap it every year and put the 2x4s up as we did last year. So we're trying to pre-build walls that we can just put up. Last I knew they had 3 of the 6 they had to put up. I didn't get up there today to check in, see how things are, but trying to get up there daily, but not able to every day.
Where are we, all the material that's getting, I know we haven't been able to use the barge, so it's coming out on the ferry, correct?
Yeah, I think,
Are we close to being done with that?
yeah, last I knew, we scheduled the last 10 truckloads last week, and they'd be coming over the next week or 2.
Okay,
There's 2 trucks on the ferry. I was on yesterday, so.
Yeah, the ferry's been nice enough to accommodate the request to try and get it all out here as quick as we can. So we can spread that out next year a little
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
You know, I know it's a big hit for the community to see all that space taken up with the trucks, but appreciate the patience for that, and we'll be done with that soon.
Okay.
Other than that, there's a few places we gotta still try and ditch, still a couple washouts still from the rain event we had there a couple weeks ago that I noticed that we have to take care of still.
Any interest on the postings for any of the jobs? Was that in your report?
I've had none for, well, we took down the foreman's position for public works, and I have not had a chance to draft the director's position as I proposed to you in theory last time, so I'm still waiting to put that together for you to look at and approve the description with the dollar amount. So we can post that. I should have that for the January meeting.
Wes,
I was wondering what was going on up at the Folly Pond Brook. Seems to be water flooded up, right up against the road. It normally goes into that. The beavers move down there, or if it's just blowdowns that have caught. But looks like something needs to be done in order to keep the road from washing out.
There's a very active beaver.
Yeah, we had a report about this last time.
Last
didn't we?
meeting, yeah. Very busy beaver.
You know, the water district used to say there wasn't any beavers. I remember coming by Round Pond one day and there was this beaver out there just enjoying himself. I mean, it was, he was doing, I mean, it was hysterical.
all right, anything else, road commissioner? Nothing? All right, we'll go to 8, old business, portrait of a graduate update. Is there anything in here? I didn't see anything.
Not that I noticed, I just, it was on the agenda, so I assume that someone will do it coming, or I don't remember getting anything submitted, so.
That'd be wrong.
Not Dave.
Yeah, I'd say, I don't think Dave was on.
She's shaking
that.
her head at me, so
Okay,
that's a no.
we'll move on to 8B, downtown project update. That, I believe, is Gabe, correct? No?
No.
He's on the agenda for another part of the project. So just a memo from me to you, just giving, I know Pam was on the call last week. We did do a presentation for the community on the project, just a general overview for those that hadn't been aware of that yet or wanted to know more. Water district components, Will and Pam were there to present that. Brent Bridges, our engineer, was also on the call to answer questions. And we are, just so folks know, we are working full steam ahead. We're still wrapping up some of the grant paperwork, primarily with EDA. Continue to exchange a few emails and phone calls to try and make sure it's exactly as they need it, but we're working through that. All of our hopes are to have both grant admin paperwork wrapped up by the end of the month. So Lord willing, we'll have that done and feel good about that and move ahead on some other funding options for match for the NDRC. On the 16th, on Thursday, there's going to be a meeting for stakeholders along the project area, just to be able to talk with them. We're going to try and establish that at least for the next few months as like a monthly meeting with them. Just so there's a chance for stakeholders, those that are going to be directly impacted along that corridor, to check in with us, ask questions. Brent will be on site that day on the island, so if anyone put an offer out for folks that wanted to meet with him while he's here, they could. And then we're gonna have another, we've been having monthly project meetings with the water district, again, the engineers, something that offering, if one of the selectmen want to attend one of those, I think it would be a good idea. Pam's usually there for the water district, or has been there for the water district. You know, but if she's wearing that hat, sometimes it may answer that, but it may or may not be worth having one more board member there if you'd like to, if you want to think about that or rotate that responsibility just for the sake of having that information in there. The next one of those is scheduled for the 6th. We usually do them in the morning. Is it what, 9? Gabe? Can't remember, 9 or 10. 10 o'clock usually in the morning. Virtual, so that's something someone thinks they can do.
Isn't that quick, like maybe an hour?
Yeah, I mean, right now, especially, I mean, you know, we're just, you know, we haven't started much of anything quite yet, so once the project really starts, there'll be a little, probably a little bit longer, but right now it's still kind of tentative or planning phase of things, and without designs or construction work happening real quick right now.
When do we think construction work's gonna start?
The rough,
Because we have to start some of it right next year.
we have to make
One of
a
the
kind of a
grants.
substantial start as far as the DOT's funding is concerned, but we feel fairly confident that we'll be able to meet that. So this is what the engineers kind of put together for us, or David put together after we got a rough outline, tentative outline of this, of the timeline from them. So the fall and winter, the surveying's been happening, we're doing the outreach. The project design is kind of where we're in or heading now. And continue to secure funding. And so the planning to put the projects out to bid, or parts of the project anyways, the early parts of it out to bid this spring. And then to see by the end of spring, see some work on the water main start. And then as of right now, with the scope we have, the engineers seem to think we can get this completed potentially by the end of 2023.
Let's see.
That would be great.
Next story. If they don't meet that deadline, do we get anything from them?
Well, it's not on the engineers, it's the contractors, and it's not out of the question necessarily to put something, I don't know what contracts look like right now with how hard it is to get
Yeah.
materials and back,
Yeah.
back orders of things, but projects have been known to have delivery dates, so something that we could certainly talk about, as long as we don't change the scope during the middle of it.
Right.
I would think the biggest thing we wouldn't want to do is run into another summer. We can avoid running into a third summer.
Yeah, if you could finish it even spring of 24, then
Right.
Yeah, unless, well, this says done late 2023, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, we would not want to go into that third straight spring or summer.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's a rough, that answer the question on the timeline. Are there questions on it? We can get answers and bring back.
I mean, what else do we have to do to secure the funding?
We're gonna work on a SHIP grant.
Okay.
That had those in the past. It's been a while. The paved parking lot was the last time we had one. That was, I think, 2015, I believe.
So wasn't the total contract value 5 point, we think the total project is like 5.4 million, is that right? 5.7, sorry.
Mhm.
And we have 5.2 approved.
Yeah, so we're kind of earmarking or thinking, we're thinking we're gonna be, we will be applying for some state grants for the waterfront infrastructure. And we do have reserve funds that we haven't fully appropriated yet, like from our harbor reserve that we were assuming we'd be able to leverage as matching funds towards the SHIP grant. And I believe
Sidewalk reserve funds too.
still some road and sidewalk funds
Yeah.
potentially that would be available as well.
Okay.
So once we finalize NBRC and EDA paperwork, we'll have a good sense of what that looks like for you to take action on some of those next steps. And I think the SHIP grants, that'll happen. We just haven't started it yet.
Okay.
And I think there was a new one that's coming out around resiliency with the state from the governor's office, policy innovation in the future. I know I was, and then Gabe was on the call today. I know Pam with the water district, that's what Gabe had mentioned for the water district too, that possible funding that was available this spring. It's smaller, it's like a $50,000 up to 50 grand for implementation and planning primarily around initiatives that would help get the state towards its climate action plan. So some of those things are in there. If you don't identify or do one of the things on that list, there's 72 items on there. We can do something off of the list. We just have to provide, I think for our town's size, a 10% match, I believe. So that's something that we're continuing to learn a little bit more about, what they'll need and what we might be able to do with that.
And we did learn today it can be in-kind match. So if you're already, like you're paying staff time or whatever, that can go towards your 10%.
Okay.
Yeah, if there is gonna be work done next year, which it sounds like there is. Once that's more solidified, like that schedule, we want to communicate that with everyone so that they know what they have to deal with next spring and summer and fall.
Yeah, we do have tentatively, we're planning on doing another community meeting as we did this last week. What were we thinking? February?
You have one for January and one for February.
Just to make sure that the information is getting out there for people as we're still planning and finalizing things. There will be a couple of components of the project design-wise that we will want to engage the board and the community on to some degree.
I was gonna say, once you get a design, preliminary design, you probably want to put that out there so you can
Right.
have a meeting about that
Mhm.
before you finalize something and someone will be like, I didn't know you were gonna be doing it that way. So-
Right.
Who was gonna get that?
Yeah.
We'll all
Well,
always
yes,
get
but
that.
we'll say, well, we had a meeting and it was well
Exactly.
publicized, so you should have come and voiced your concerns at that point. But
Yeah, it's
we
one,
should at least have that meeting.
Yeah.
one thing we don't want to fall short on is the ability to share the information ahead of time and make folks aware of it, so.
Yep.
Maybe we could put drop boxes around town.
Haven't those been outlawed? All right, we'll move on to 9, new business. 9A, quarry preservation ordinance review. I don't believe we had any changes to the ordinance as we amended it, correct? We just wanted to
It
make
was
sure.
just a date.
It was just the date in the actual special town meeting.
Right, yeah, so for the quarry, I just didn't know, I mean, I put it on there, I think you mentioned at the last meeting, I didn't know if you wanted, if you had a date in mind, if you want to do it the next available time we can, which would be the meeting in January, have a special town meeting prior to the regular meeting, and just put this one and the EMA one on there. The only issues with those were the wording of the warrant.
I think that's what we should do. The January meeting, we should just plan on meeting at 5 again, but have a special town meeting, because
Mm.
I don't see it as easy as being too controversial.
I don't think, I
I don't think this
agree.
one will be.
When do we want to meet in January though? Because January is just the worst month for me professionally. Like that first week, I'm almost guaranteed I can't meet.
Well, the 11th would be, if you meet on the 28th.
I don't think we can meet on the 28th though.
Oh.
It sounds like I can't be here.
I think there
You're
are
gonna
two,
be
three
gone,
people who
right? You said you'd be
aren't
gone
here.
28th.
And I won't be here.
Where am I going? What did I say? I was-
You said you wouldn't be on island. I thought.
I can't remember what I said. Yeah, I think I am supposed to be away, but I can double check on that. I think it had something to do with an appointment and it could have been changed, so I just have to check.
Jake, you mentioned that too. right?
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it might be the 27th. What's it? I have to ask my wife. I can't
The
remember.
27th is a Monday.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know the 28th is a Tuesday, but I have no idea. It was something we're supposed to do around then, but I can't remember what it is.
Can we put it off until the 11th?
It's a long time.
That's about the only, unless we're gonna meet next week for
Right.
nothing. And I won't be
Just
here.
to have the
next week. I
special
won't
town
be-
meady?
Will I be here next week? Can't remember.
That'd be the
We can't do it
27th.
next Tuesday.
I can't do it the 21st. My daughter's getting married.
So you're not available at all between the holidays.
I mean, I have a meeting on the 27th in Hollowell.
Oh, so
I
you
could be
wouldn't
back in the
here.
afternoon, but then I have to go right back over the next day.
Mhm.
Well,
I
it
mean,
might come down to, if we don't have a full board, we don't have a full board, it will happen eventually. That's why we have a co-chair. And
right,
Yeah, I mean, but you're talking about to have the,
I'd say
Just
we
the
just
quarry ordinance,
try and
right?
have a meeting the first
And
week of
the EMA.
January, and if,
A and
I
B.
mean,
A
if we
and
put
B,
it out
the
there,
first
can you
two.
do it virtually if he's gone
Right,
or
A and
not?
B.
No,
I mean, not for the, if you're talking special town.
no,
meeting,
but I mean, just like a
A
regular.
a
time.
regular selectmen's meeting, the law and our policy allows under certain circumstances to have a hybrid meeting with the board.
I mean, obviously, if the 4 of you can still meet, you don't have to have me here, so. I just know that especially those first 2 weeks are gonna be difficult.
I won't be back on Vinalhaven until the 3rd of January. Speaking of which,
So should we just have the special town meeting the 4th?
which is Monday.
Would that work for the rest of the board?
I have no plans, actually.
I think it should be fine. That's for A and B, right?
Core in the
Yeah.
EM,
The core in the
emergency
EMA.
management.
Yeah.
And then have a selectmen's meeting right after that. That would be.
Just those first two and
There's
then.
that one.
Can I make a recommendation? If you are having a special town meeting, part of the question was, that was circulating around, was why a special meeting? There's nothing wrong with it, but in the communication as to why you're doing it, it would be helpful to have a sentence or something that just says, we're, for whatever reason, we want to move this along and not do it at the regular June town meeting. Just put something into that effect. There's suspicion whenever there's a special town meeting.
Well, I think it's required by law, right? That's why we have to do it.
No, it's not that you're having a town meeting. It's if you're gonna do it as a special town meeting and not bring the ordinances up at the regular town.
Because we don't
we
want
could
the
say-
town
we
meeting
could say
to
that we
last
want
14 hours, that's why we do it.
Well, then you can say that. I don't care what you say. I'm just recommending for your consideration.
Right.
That
No.
you put something in, so it doesn't sound like you're trying to slip something through.
Different word, special.
I think that's what's
you know,
required of us to.
That's what the law considers.
Yeah,
Also, yeah.
This is we're
Just think about it.
we're following the law, so.
Well, the point though is that because people don't take special town meetings, so they think, they're
Yeah,
up to
that's
something,
exactly it.
something.
And
Yeah,
it's
they know.
not, so be positive when you promote coming to both these, and this will help us out.
Makes sense to do it now instead of waiting until we put using the quarry again.
Jake's comment about not making the annual one 14 hours long. You know, the concept is.
That's a
helpful.
slap on my wrist.
Well, they
Those are
haven't
the
been too long, but if we
backgrounds,
keep,
alright?
if we waited to do all of the
Yeah.
things that you have to do all in June, then the meeting would be,
You'd have to have a
Fair
couple
thing to
days.
say,
set
then.
you'd
aside.
have to have 2 nights of meetings in June instead of just the
So,
one for the budget. We
that's
like to
fine.
keep that one just budget
Yeah.
issues.
And you can say that. I just recommend you put that out so people understand why. you're doing that.
Okay.
It's your consideration.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
have hot dogs and.
All right,
hamburgers.
so
No.
January 4th,
Yeah.
is that what we're gonna put? Is
Yeah.
that everyone in agreement on
January
that?
4th at 5.
Special town meeting after, regular town meeting. But that's just for the query and the EMA.
Yeah,
Right.
And
it's
then
presented right here. and-
aircraft is gonna go back to the planning commission and they can
We'll
bring
work
us
on it.
something.
Well,
We've got something that York did in the minutes tonight too. They have
Okay, we'll
one,
take a
so
Look at that, thanks.
that one is-
Andy talked to
that one was
legal about the,
written. a
Not
long
our
time
legal
ago.
counsel, no.
We should probably
We're
have,
gonna do that without your blessing.
we should probably have an ordinance to present to them first,
Right.
right?
That York one though, seems like we could mimic a lot of things on that one.
Because that's where I saw that they weren't
The
specifically
heliport.
banning it, but you had to have an FAA approved landing spot. And then that also has to be approved by the CEO of the town and I think the fire department and the police
And it
department.
has to be so far from property lines.
Right, and you
Yes,
can't,
that's what
And
we're
structures
thinking.
and
That's
different
good.
things like that.
yeah,
There's a
That
copy.
York-
You have a copy of that? So I can see if I get it from
Um,
Andy later.
Yeah,
I
that's
just-
the one from New York one's right here, I think.
Can I just
It's
make
in
a
here
note
somewhere,
that there's
but-
still a typo
yes, in this,
on this,
in
This
the
one?
ordinance.
With the aviation.
yes,
Well,
aircraft landing launching.
we're gonna pass that back to the planning commission. They're gonna
Okay.
draft
We just
something.
Need to make it a 5, not a 2,500, because it says 5,000.
Yeah, no
Right.
change, no changes were made since the
That's
meeting.
the one.
Okay.
from New York.
Yeah, so
All right.
we'll just. we'll
I didn't
kick
give
that
you
back
the
to them
cover
and
sheet if you
Okay.
want.
No.
It just says
Okay.
when it
Right,
was
that
enacted, we changed, amended.
Thank you.
And I was able to use the tool in Microsoft Word to compare the two docs. So the question Jeff raised at the meeting, the EMA ordinance, because it was so drastically different in the formatting, was able to see what was different. So I'll have that copy available instead of having just the old and the new. People can actually see what.
All right, so we have the special town meeting, but do we have to have a public forum first before we have the special?
You've
town
made no
meeting?
changes, so you don't need to have another hearing
Okay.
if you don't want to.
I say no, there's no, like I said.
I don't
there's
think there was
nothing-
much-
There's nothing changed from when we presented it 2 times now.
Last year.
And it seemed like most people who showed up to the last one was about the aircraft ordinance, right?
There was a question about why this one was so different, but Andy
Right.
has the answers to that
Yeah.
now, so
You do have to approve the signing
the warrant.
of a special town meeting warrant.
There was a
Drafted.
copy of that somewhere here.
Copy of it.
In case you did want to do that.
Oh, sorry, mine's over here.
Okay.
So what do we gotta say? We gotta say that we wanna make a motion that to have the town meeting, or how do we just sign the warrant, and put the date on there? What do we do? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
you call for, I would make a motion and call for the special town meeting and to sign the warrant for said meeting, which is available right here. Which would happen at,
Say,
Presumably we
I
can
make
do
a
it in
motion
here.
that we set a special town meeting for Tuesday, January 4th at 5 o'clock, January 4th, 2022 at 5 PM, sorry, in this room for the,
Articles
for
1 through
for
3.
Articles 1 through 3.
Second. All those in favor?
We just need to sign.
So you sign it, right?
And everyone's read it right? I didn't see any typos or
Well, it's
anything.
all, there's blanks in there for the date this
Right.
time, so we don't have to look at it.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna fill it
Well, there's
in.
nothing in the articles either, but.
I assume Lizzie just filled it in
I
for the
did.
date, so.
I took out the language that was in there last time about the amended on.
Yeah,
It's in the ordinance when it's amended.
Under my name or?
Yeah.
actually,
Above it,
to
the line
the right of
above.
it, to the right.
That was a pretty terrible signature. Hopefully
Wow,
someone
that
does
is really
it.
bad.
Whoops.
For a second.
Well, I forgot how to spell my last name. Yeah, Vinalhaven High School did me well.
You were G and some squiggles.
Yeah. I tried that once and the bank got upset with me.
Oh,
They really did.
All right, so that takes care of 9A and B, correct?
Mhm.
And we've already discussed 9C, the aircraft launching and landing ordinance. We're gonna defer back to you and you're.
Yep.
All right,
I gave them my copy of the York one, so they at least have a paper copy to look at.
thank you. All right, 9D, downtown project outreach and product support contract.
The only question about this is we have it in our budget, right?
We do, well, yeah, so I've been kind of waiting to see where this project stuff would fall, because it's kind of top priority, I thought, in our budget and what we're doing for that position, that was for the community development position. So wait and see what we were gonna need for a scope of work to carry this project forward on the outreach side of things. The engineers are gonna be very helpful with being able to do project management, that's what they do for it. When it comes to helping just publicize and do outreach with stakeholders and help tidy up some of the grant paperwork and reporting stuff. I've been working with Gabe primarily on all this for the last 3 years now. So felt best position to have for the next 6 months to help us work on this, at least for the next 6 months. And that's what this scope of work would cover, is January to June. So that way we're not trying to catch up with someone new out of the gate. So she's worked up scope of work that kind of covers what that would entail. Everything from stakeholder outreach and engagement. Put in their tentative meetings, how many meetings she'd be helping facilitate.
I thought it looked fine to me. That was my only question, was about the budget. So
Yeah.
It's
if no one else has anything.
The
I'd make
base
a
cost
motion
is-
we
I just-
have Andy sign it.
base cost plus an hourly rate, right?
Right.
How many
She shows-
hours
she
roughly?
shows What she's gonna
Yeah,
do.
she gave an estimate of hours.
I just didn't see an
That's all.
estimated total of hours, that's all. Unless I missed
Depends
it.
on how many meetings, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for each of those kind of blocks there was, some of them were, she felt she could hone in on and kind of give a firm time on, and then the ones that she couldn't, like towards the
But
bottom.
like when you're having two meetings, you don't know if they're gonna last an hour or 2 hours, so you can't,
Right,
I mean, you
Yeah.
don't wanna shut people off if they're talking to on a couple of those.
no, I mean, I don't have, it's in the budget, it's something we definitely need, I mean, that's person to have on this, like you said, she's been working on for 3+ years. So
Right.
I don't have an
Yeah,
issue with it.
I have no problem then. The other times that, you know, she's,
I mean,
Done work
is
for
there,
us,
is
you
there
know.
amount that it cannot exceed? I mean, I would
We-
assume,
Don't have it in there right now. Don't know.
I think what we talked about too is anything that was hourly, that prior to taking on an hourly rate project, I would be presenting Andy with the estimate of what that would cost. So it wouldn't be just willy-nilly charging by the hour. There'd be a clear, like a mini scope for that particular project.
Okay, yeah, it works for me.
go ahead and sign it, Andy.
Do we need to make a motion or?
I'd like that. yeah.
I move that the Board of Selectmen authorizes the town manager to sign the contract between Gabe McPhail and the town of Vinalhaven for downtown project outreach work.
Second.
All those in favor? All right. Thank you, Gabe. 9E, Bohm offshore wind RFI guidance to mitigate impact of fisheries. So I will be the first one to say that I did not read that entire thing that you sent. Needs to be more study done on that, but yes,
Yeah.
I would like us as a town, as a board, however you want to put it, to submit information to this, what, by January, beginning of January?
Is it the
January
7th?
7th,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, it's not that far.
that was a
off.
big bone of contention on the meeting
Yeah.
too, is how they're having all the, they had the meeting last week and they want everyone to come up with comments by January 7th. It's like,
Mm.
you're pushing this through at the worst possible time for people to be
Right,
trying to comment over the holidays.
Yeah.
Like, they were just saying how it's another sneaky.
it's
thing.
a
Right.
sneaky way to do it, yeah.
So my
Right.
understanding is that Bohm has control of for identifying lease sites and regulating off ocean energy leases. That's what they do. And right now, the RFI is just seeking the guidance, and it's not just for Maine, it's the guidance that will be used in helping identify how they site, what they do to try and identify and cite potential lease sites, because so the goal set by the current administration, 30 gigawatts by 2030. I can't remember how many thousands of turbines that is.
He
in
said,
total, but-
he said figure 10 for 100 megawatt, like one tower would be 10 megawatts is basically what he said. I don't have my notes from the meeting, but, because someone asked like, well, you're saying you want this much, how many?
Right.
And he's like, basically it's 10 for every 100 megawatts. So if there's a
Mhm.
6 gigawatt thing, it would be what, 600, right? Is it 1,000 megawatts to a gigawatt, I assume?
That's what I would assume.
So, I mean, and that's spread across all around the US. I mean, it's the
Oh, it's
Gulf of
not just in
Maine,
Gulf of
Those guys in
Mid-Atlantic,
New Jersey
Gulf
were
of
fairly fired
Mexico,
up on that meeting.
California, Washington.
How do you put it on?
So they've got, I think, got seven areas
Yeah.
around the US that they identified. So here's a map
Yeah.
that they had presented.
Yeah.
Those circles do not indicate the lease site. I know at one of the meetings, someone thought that was the lease site that they were proposing. It's just identifying the body of water that they're looking to find a lease site for. I know it's hard to read because it's just a little blurry, but the proposed timeline right now, the Gulf of Maine is the last one on that list, in which they're in the planning phase right now, and estimating to have a wind energy area designated, essentially a lease area identified by mid-2023, and then available for purchase potentially by mid-2024. Is all just tentative at the moment. Obviously, lots to figure out. I mean, there's a lot to try and, so Jake was on the call the other day, this call that they had, this was one of, I think, 4 or so fisheries, but at least 3 different fisheries. Fixed
One woman
year.
said that this was her third call she's been on in 3 days. I
Yeah.
thought, so.
Either 3 or 4 meetings they were doing specifically for fisheries. And the one that we were on was for fixed year. They had one for,
Mobile gear.
I
I
don't
can't
know.
remember what the other ones are.
And so that, I mean, it was good that they had it. It was kind of last minute and it could have been a lot better turnout. I think there was 60 people on the call or so.
There was like 100 people, but
Was there 100?
a lot of people got off pretty early, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was only about 20, maybe 20 comments, maybe,
Mhm.
and some of them by the same person.
I know others are preparing comments, for, written comments. There weren't too many comments shared. A lot of the fisheries comments that I picked up on were ones in the, what do you call it, the Mid-Atlantic or just below around Long Island Sound and somewhere on the
New
Cape where
Jersey,
they're doing surveying now. Where at least, project sites have already, you see on that map that they've already got a few leases out there, off of, above New Jersey, and then off the Cape Cod there. So those are the areas where they're already surveying and gear from fishermen, it's already being lost. They talk about the conflict and the failure to communicate with fishermen when they're in the area or saying that they're out of the area. In fact, they're still in the area, and there's a claim process. So it was good to hear that they're not that they're having the trouble, but to hear what the problems are. So that way, if through this process, it can be brought up again, say, okay, you need to do something more about enforcement. If the survey vessels are, the developers are in the area and they do take gear, what's afforded to the fishermen there that lose the gear to actually get the cost of it back at least. Because some of them said no one answers the calls or, we
And it
weren't
sounded like
there.
they said we're all done surveying this area, then they go back through there and just turn off their AIS or something, and which if you're over 65 feet, you can't legally turn it off. Isn't that what the Coast Guard guy said? Something like you
Something
can't
like
do that. So it sounded like it wasn't going very good down there, but I mean, I don't know what to believe. I'm not down there.
Definitely a lot there. I did, there was 7 pages, I think, for the RFI. Instead of trying to have you go find it, just in case you want to read through it, if there's things that you know of or you'd like us to say from our perspective as a town government, let me know. I'll do what I can to research it and draft something before the next meeting. But it's due the 7th, so.
I have all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I would like to tell them, I don't even to tell them.
They can be printed.
Yeah.
Do we know if North Haven is going to be submitting?
I think they're in favor of it.
Well, I would assume that they're going to submit something like, does it make a difference if 2 towns submit together or?
It doesn't make a difference. The more comments, I think, the better for this type
Okay.
of process, especially if they're different in a little ways, or even if they're the same.
Yeah.
Just because it counts, twice if it's something we've written.
Because I would-
particular idea.
Do you know anyone that's a town manager of like Friendship or anywhere like Bristol or down in those areas? Because those areas are
Already.
a lot closer, and they've already been dealing with it. I wonder if maybe they have something that they've written that we could just take a look at, and maybe
Yeah.
piggyback on. So
Because I would want to support other towns who have good points and
Right.
Right,
put that in
well, like-
ours as
well,
well.
like
so-
that.
Making
The
that
lease
a
site's
front.
gonna
Yes.
affect the guys from like those Pemmican Peninsula and Bristol and Friendship more
Did?
than this way, right? At
Mhm.
this
As it's
point where they were
yeah,
just surveying, but I
Right.
mean, in the future, it could affect the whole-
everybody, right?
So they might have already had something written, or I'm assuming, I would hope they did something.
I can try and, if I can do it with the holidays, reach out to some colleagues and.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you knew
Colleagues in
what-
Massachusetts even, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
see if they can offer any insight from their perspectives.
Wes,
Is there any idea of the money structure? I mean, does the state of Maine kind of pick up
Would-
sizable money? I mean,
that's what we're hoping to get some information out of this, because if I noticed there's a measure in here or a point here about financial compensation, right? Like, but what is that?
Well, Bohm said they can't even dole it out the way they're set up. They can't like take money from, say, CMP was putting a windmill up in the bay. CMP couldn't give them money for them to pay us because they can't pay out money the way their statutory,
They're not allowed.
whatever.
to.
Well, how did they word it? If they can't take the money and pay it out from Bohm, it has to come from you. If the money goes in, it goes right into the general fund so there's no guarantee that we get it if it went to Bohm.
Well, that's.
So,
yeah,
like-
That's not gonna work.
Like I was saying, there should be something in there that the states could administer the funds instead of it going to Bohm if it's gonna affect,
Like in Alaska. I mean,
right? Like if it's gonna affect the state of Maine,
It should go to the state of Maine to
Right.
disperse to
It is
their,
gonna affect the
to
state
their
of Maine.
fishermen.
right? But I mean, like down off New Jersey, that's gonna affect New Jersey, not
New
us. So
Jersey,
that
right.
should go to their,
Right,
Right.
somehow their state legislature should set up a way to.
Right, to
do-
get the money to the
Yeah.
affected,
But,
yes.
Yeah, that is a,
Yeah, I mean, it's my understanding in Alaska that, you know, maybe a myth, but that every resident of Alaska gets a stipend check every year from
the
the
oil.
oil
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
drilled on state land kind of thing. I mean, it seems like it's a similar concept. Yeah.
Even if you didn't have to pay state income taxes, that would be better than getting a check, I guess, or it'd be just as good for most people. But they get that and not have to pay. I mean, I think that that's gonna get something that's gonna get figured out I mean, they were saying that, you know, they can't do it right now, but it's not to say that they couldn't have the power to do it, you know, with some legislation changes.
Mhm.
That's the way I took them with, did you, I mean,
There'd have to be changes to the laws right now.
Right.
They just aren't, BOEM isn't an entity that can,
Distribute
Right.
funds,
Yeah.
right.
and it's big money. Some of
Yeah.
those lease sites that were, I think, I remember found it somewhere, some of those lease sites, I think in, off of Cape Cod were going for over 100 million, just to purchase the right to be able to build in it. So for the government, federal government, you know, it's big money. You know, you got this many lease sites you're creating, and it's a good question to ask, you know, where's it going and how do you make sure that a certain amount of it's available for the fishing community that
And
will be
a lot-
impacted and the
and they
communities
should-
ashore that'll be impacted.
they should make sure they have the money in there for when they actually have to take them down or, you know, to make the ocean go back to normal when they come up with some new technology that's better than anything that we've thought of up to date, you know, I mean.
Right, to restore it to its
Right,
previous
because
state.
they were saying like over in Scotland or North Sea, whatever, that the company that builds it will sell it to someone else after they get their money's worth out of it and their depreciation and their government incentives, and then that company will take it and sell it to another company, and it'll just go to a lower and lower company. So by the time it's finally time to take them down, that company that they sold it to at the end has,
Nothing,
Right.
nothing to,
they're
Yeah.
like, well, we don't have any money to do this. So there should be some kind of, you know, mechanism that person that builds it has to put so much money in a fund to clean
decide
it up.
to
Right?
clean it up, yeah.
I mean, because these things aren't gonna last, metal and concrete in the ocean isn't gonna last forever.
It will not.
Be carbon neutral.
Problem.
Well, those are just a couple of things that I can remember from being on that meeting that I heard.
So is there anything? Is there anything else that we can do as a board right now? Because I don't know specifically what should go in this.
I mean, that's why I was asking Andy if he knew of anyone, but
Okay,
I mean, those are a couple things that we should probably go in it.
Right, and the state's still developing its roadmap. You know, it didn't have this timeline that BOEM just created, so it kind of expedites what they have to come up with for a roadmap, and so the whole idea of that was to come up with a set of guidelines for a developer. You know, if you're gonna be developing a certain area, here's what the people in the area would expect. And so that, my understanding as of right now, there'd be nothing legally binding that the developer would have to do with that, because it's in federal water. But
but then you're coming across state waters once you want to get to land, right?
if you bring the cable across, yeah,
You're gonna have to,
I mean, whether it's in Maine or somewhere else.
right?
yeah.
Right.
You're eventually gonna have to come to land, which is
Right.
gonna be a state, so.
Right. And that's the trenching and the cable, and that's not, you know, again, obviously a little different than erecting the
True,
floating or fixed turbines.
but if you can't connect to the mainland, what's the purpose of building the thing to begin with, so.
Right. I mean, Jake raised, and, you know, had a point. It was interesting to hear some of the other fisheries say, put it closer to shore if you can, because some of their fishing, I'm assuming they were more like trawlers, and they wanted to
They're
not.
down on, he's like down in New Jersey, the guy's like, we can't fish close to the shore, so put them as close to shore as you can, and I was like, well, that's not how it is in Maine, we want them as far away as you can possibly sight them
Right.
from shore. So
Right,
I
Interesting to hear
did
that.
comment on, I mean, I raised my hand and it was towards the end and they didn't want big, long comments, but I did think about whales, about how, if we can't put lines in.
yeah, how could you put,
Right.
yeah,
Good point.
I think that they're gonna probably have times in the years when they can't be working out there. I mean, if they don't, I don't see how
When vessel speed came up, I mean, you're restricted depending on your size of your vessel and the area you're in. You can only go a certain speed.
Right.
And those survey vessels are most likely above that size limit that would require them to. And so there was conversations about that, how long it would take. And, the hope is that, of course, what's being offered or suggested is that local boats might be able to do the surveying.
But that one guy said, that some of our boats aren't big enough to
Right.
spend the night, and if we have to fall by going real slow, we didn't.
Yeah.
We just can't. I mean, that was a guy that was down by the ones that are in Block Island Sound, so I mean, it was interesting to hear that everyone, it was, it wasn't just a main meeting, it was people from Chesapeake Bay all the way to Maine talking about everyone's different issues that they have, and there's gonna be a lot of different comments about a lot of different things, I have a feeling.
Oh, yeah.
But if it came from a town board, it might be, I don't know how they're weighted, if they even are weighted, but you think it would go further than an individual, but who knows? I don't know how they weight those things.
She's having to put up front for 2 weeks, seems awful short.
The meeting was just last
Yeah,
Thursday.
the RFI was posted right before the week of Thanksgiving, I think 22nd of November. So it meets their, whatever that timeline, that number of days, 45 or 50-day timeline that they need. But it is,
But they did claim that this is just gonna be the first, and they're gonna have another meeting.
That's what I thought. It said there's
in
gonna
the
be a
spring
second
of
one and there'll be more comments.
2022.
Yeah.
They'll come out with their first list of mitigation
there's
strategies,
another
and then there'll be a meeting
comment
about that
period.
and comment period about that.
Right.
So this isn't that what, right?
yeah,
This
by
is-
summer, they are hopeful that by summer, there'll be final guidance. That's just the guidance as to how they're then going to go and identify different lease sites in these areas. And so they hope to have a draft available. There'll be public comment on the draft guidelines. And then unless they have to go through another major revision, they're hoping by summer they can have the
A draft
guidelines printed.
on surveying.
So the guidelines would kind of give BOEM the direction they need to go and figure out, okay, where are we going to identify? How do we then identify areas? How do we talk about mitigation, financial mitigation for those that are impacted? I mean, that, it lays it out nice with exactly what they're looking for. So I mean, you can almost just, start with that, as long as it is. Information saw it is like 5 general areas.
I'm getting a couple of these sites. Great alternative taxation.
Hmm.
Well, I will read through this through the rest of the week. If I come up with any questions, I'll just email you, Andy, and what we can include, but I'm sure we're gonna voice similar concerns to other towns in Maine, if not other towns around the country. Right. All right. We will move on to 9F, Vinalhaven Et3 withdrawal.
Pat's here for that. This is a program, I don't know if you remember, we had a conversation about this almost 2 years ago. The idea of getting involved with this ET3 program, the federal level, and it was going to provide us opportunities for billing. And at the time, we were thinking of going into community care medicine to some degree, and having a stronger partnership with the medical center for helping divert some of those patients, and that we'd be able to help take on some of those patients. But it was all about the patient, but also the ability to get some reimbursements for that work. And in Pat's estimation, we are utilizing that as it was written to be done. And there's reporting required for it. And right now it sounds like she's getting emails about, we need the report, or, where is it? Why aren't we doing this or that? And so I don't know if you want to explain that a little bit better than I, but she's asking for, the board's consideration to withdraw from the program.
It has to be an official letter to say that you want to get out. I'm not sure that we're the appropriate town for it. One of the wishes of this ET3 program is that ambulance services can the rules are you have to take a person to a hospital. And so there might be circumstances when a clinic or I don't know, a dental office or something might be a better place, a better destination, but currently if you do that, you don't get paid, that's part of it. So we take our patients when we can to our medical center rather than the hospital. And we get paid for transporting them to, well, as much as we pay for anything, transporting them to the medical center when the patient's there can pay for it. So I'm not really clear on what the reasons for it was. When Carrie trained us, there was a whole list of things, okay, this is an ET3 and we have to process it right away, but it was for calls like somebody's got hiccups. So we would have been able to leave them at the house and then bill for our trip there, but none of the things that we leave people at home for, which are mostly fall and can't get up, or a diabetic emergency that we treat and leave, none of those are allowed in this. That's, you still have to take them. So I guess I was skeptical right in the beginning, but there has never been a call that fit the criteria that we're supposed to apply, but there's this crazy amount of email that I get, like, another training today on how to do this. We're just not the right place for it, I don't think. And I did talk to Cam at the medical center, just in case that was something that was on their radar, that they wanted to get going on it. And she doesn't know anything about it, because there's so much stuff there that they can't deal with this right now. So I think it was an experimental program. We were ahead of the curve. I think we could be behind the curve very happily. But I can't just say, I want to get out, you guys have to say.
Well, if it's under your recommendation, then
Yeah.
yep. Do we need to make a motion?
Make a
All right.
motion.
Make a motion that we send a letter withdrawing from the ET3 program.
Second,
All those in favor? Thank you, Pat.
thanks. Then, how about that?
Move on to 10, report of town manager.
Already mentioned the public works update. People are asking, yes, we do plan to flood the ball ground, so we did time it. So temperatures are freezing, and with the high tide, so we talked before about not having that water sit there unfrozen, because it ends up entering into the sewer system. And we have issues when water infiltrates the sewer system, so if we cannot add to that, we are trying not to.
Yep.
Acknowledging there will be some time where it will, but if we can minimize it, that'd be best. So it'll probably, just looking at the next big tide, it's probably gonna be right after Christmas, unless we're scheduled to get a lot of rain, which I don't know that we are, but we do plan to do it.
Can I ask a question on
Yep.
it? Did it get mowed? Is it even going to be,
It'll be serviceable.
okay. I didn't know if it would, even if flooded, if it would. Okay.
No, it's gonna have grass coming up through it,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Sean got stuck last year
It was too wet.
and it was dry
Mhm.
as it had been for a long time, and he got stuck.
So there's no
He wouldn't
way,
even be able to get in there now,
No.
though. I mean, he'd get
Yeah.
It's a
in
reminder-
there and he'd be stuck.
that'd be it.
Reminder that it is a very wet area.
Yeah.
So,
In future years, can we just burn it?
I mean, in
well,
the
we'd hope to.
spring,
Didn't quite work that way.
yeah, the time and resources to be able to do that, and the timing of the year, that's here, he'll know more about it than I, but, Mark expressed that too. It's quite an effort to try and do that. And you have a short window to do it in the spring. But we can revisit that
Is that something,
and have him explain better than I about how or when we might do that.
would that work though? If you burn it in the spring, is it gonna be?
No,
short
it still
enough
have to
come-
be mowed.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I mean, Mark and I talked about it and he had said that perhaps we could do it this fall, but it's just too wet.
It's been so wet.
Everything's just too wet.
50-gallon drum of gasoline might dry it out pretty quick.
They always used to burn it in the spring.
That's
I mean-
expensive these
Well,
days.
it still would grow. It doesn't matter.
Well, right, I know, but
We have to have the ball ground mowed, where the ice is gonna be,
Which is, yeah,
we
when
just
would you
kicked
be
the
able to
grass
do
with our
that?
ice skate and chopped it out.
September.
There's ways we can
Usually,
level grass.
usually
So
it's
wet
dry,
this summer. But yes, this year was not.
And August and September usually
It's
is,
not gonna be
dry
below
enough
freezing
that
this
they-
winter. It's a non-issue.
Yeah, I'm skeptical it's even gonna freeze, so.
oh, well, I hope
I
it
think
does,
it's supposed
but
to get pretty cold.
we are prepared anyway. We have, two of the Parks Commission guys are gonna go weed whack along the sidewalk where it's gotten, the grass has gotten so tall, so just in case you're not wading through tall grass, just sitting down, putting your skates on, assuming we have ice. Got hay for the downwind boulder, naughty boulder,
No.
and hopefully things will work out. And
They
if
will.
not, Andy's going down after it freezes with this, with
So-
his weed whacker and he's gonna weed whack the ball ground
Sounds good.
in his spare time.
That's right.
Yeah,
Contract for law enforcement, that is set to be renewed at the end of the month. I did check in with the chief deputy and they, I think the budget for the county is set to, for approval on Thursday. Okay,
Okay.
once they get through that, they'll be able to get us in North Haven together to, they don't anticipate any major changes at this point. Still could be surprised, I guess, but I don't know if there were things since the last meeting that came to mind for you that we need to have addressed in there, modified in there, or things that aren't working that you still want to see improved. It'd be a good time to have a conversation about that with them.
I think it's all just about getting that second deputy, so we have full coverage. I think that's, once we actually see that, then we can comment on whether we need to change things, but I realize they're still having hiring issues, so. But I wouldn't expect the contract to increase that much year over year, right?
I mean, they have a contract with the union for the sheriff, so I mean, that's also, that was done 2 years ago or a year
don't
ago,
know.
so I mean, we
Unless
know what
there's-
that was gonna be before we signed this
Unless
contract.
there's like annual, there are annual increases.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Okay.
steps and there's annual COLA increases.
Yes.
On top of that, so.
Yeah.
They're not insignificant depending on what the COLA is. And if someone advances to another step, it could be, a matter of a couple bucks an hour for that next year potentially.
Okay.
So maybe that is, we can anticipate and see that, they can kind of see what that is ahead of time, but I think what you can't account for necessarily is when you're looking at they try to renegotiate the contract. If they're set right now for 2 years and they decide, hey, everyone's getting 6%, we locked in at 3%, we want to renegotiate, which has happened, I think.
But there's no talk of that happening between now and the first of the year, I assume.
I don't know, I'm not saying with them necessarily, but just, I think generally I've heard of this happening elsewhere. I don't know if it's happening with Knox County or not.
So Knox County's on a calendar year for fiscal year, okay.
Yeah, that's, we just finally caught up to them last year, right? Where we didn't vote.
We're
in
lined
the
up with them
summer,
now.
then we finally,
So it splits.
6 months on the previous fiscal year, 6 months. on the new. Okay. Yep, all right.
I was at a 1-day workshop conference, had Maine and New Hampshire managers there, and had a chance to read this, but a lot of conversation right now. For the last 3 or 4 years, it's been around marijuana and trying to get ahead of the baby boomer and the major retirement that we're gonna happen, which we're seeing now, we're dealing with now, the workforce shortage. Right now, a lot of efforts on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and making sure towns' policies are, welcoming that way, making sure towns are welcoming in that way for anyone. And people are noticing when it's not. And the reality is, it was fascinating hearing some of the stuff at this workshop, but there's polls of adults and high school students. I remember, one of the things they were talking about right now in the high schools, or amongst those in the schools that they're surveying nationally, 14% of those responding can check the box for being LGBTQ. And that's a reality, and that's something that employers need to be mindful of, plan for.
do we really have an issue? We hire someone if they apply, don't we?
we do, doesn't mean that.
We can't get anyone to.
You know, it doesn't mean our policies are welcoming to that, doesn't, you know, in their community conversations, some of these towns are having. You know, so it was interesting just to hear that, how other towns are dealing with and addressing it. I don't know if it's something that, you know, you feel we want to try and look into and have similar community conversations around it.
I don't know, I think we're fortunate to be in a pretty welcoming community. And we're also a
I
very
haven't heard of
just,
it.
and just naturally homogeneous community anyway. I mean,
Is there anything that's been brought to your attention that we haven't maybe heard of? I mean, I haven't really heard of anything. So.
Not specifically, I guess, you know, just, you know, acknowledging that, you know, just because you don't talk about it doesn't mean you know, you are as welcoming or as accepting as you could be. That's what a lot of them that have gone through it have realized.
I'm sure we're not as welcoming as we think, but I don't.
Well, you can't.
It's
you
also
can't
we're-
make
we're-
someone be welcoming. That is
That-
welcoming.
Yeah.
Exactly, and also,
I
it's an
don't-
island, so you don't have that huge influx of people looking to
Right.
move out here. There's obviously a lot of people here in the summer, but
right.
then they go back to wherever they're from and work there. So it's,
I mean, I haven't heard of it being an issue, but like you went to the meeting, you would know
Right.
more of if it's an issue than we would, I guess,
You know-
because I don't really know what we're supposed to be looking for.
right.
You know, one of the things that we're going to start seeing in too is like for grant funds, you know, this one from the governor's office right now that you mentioned earlier. It'll ask the question, you know, how have you planned for in when you deliver this grant, you know, when we give you, if we give you this grant, whatever service or project you're doing, how have you reached out to make sure that you've included everyone? And so it's something that they're going to expect answers on. You know, for some communities, it's going to be, you know, obviously a very different answer than others. You know, hosting workshops, you know, community workshops before you apply, for example, making sure that, you know, in areas where you've got more diversity and larger populations, they're going to want to make sure you've gone to different communities within that city.
Right.
You know, how that applies to small rural towns, you know, I guess we're still going to wait and kind of see what they would expect, but grantors are you know, likely to start seeing this more often in those applications.
Hopefully that doesn't become a big section of paperwork that we have to try and
Explain.
explain,
Yeah.
like, we have 1,200 people, we don't really.
We've known
you know
them,
what I mean?
we've known them all since they were born.
Generations of people out here.
Yeah.
Oh, anything else, Andy?
Gabe's got a virtual hand raised.
Sorry, go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to comment on that, which is, you know, I think what we're going to see, where we're seeing it is more in procedural equity, like Andy acknowledged. So just something to keep in mind of like how we do the work. It's sort of like if someone, you know, who in the community is being impacted by decisions that are being made. And so when we do outreach engagement, when we're making a decision about really anything, when we look at who's impacted by that decision, how are they involved in the community process, or and certainly with the grant situation of like, if we're applying for something specific, how are they involved in what we're applying for? So it's more procedure. I think it's more procedural at this point, and just documenting that procedural, how we're going about engaging people.
Okay, thank you. All right, if that's it for you, okay. Number 11, report of members. Anybody?
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas to you, Eric, and a Happy New Year. And is there no heat in this building?
You've got a coat right behind.
I
you.
know, I need a blanket.
It's cold in here.
She turned it up.
We only
did.
do our part to make the climate a better place for tomorrow's generation.
I'm never cold, so if it's cold in here, I have no idea.
I feel great.
Ooh,
I'm
handle
comfortable.
what's that?
I'm comfortable, so.
Well, if no one has
Maybe it's
anything, I make
because-
a motion. we
Maybe
adjourn.
I'm too old.
All those in
Yeah.
favor?
It's my age, dear.
Yes, it's in.
It's my age too.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say that, but I know what you're saying.
Yep.